But it's nice to see you both looking normal.
Both looking normal.
Yeah,
Who's not supposed to be normal?
you're so scary in Haseen Dilruba.
Oh, like that. Yeah, yeah. I'm scary otherwise also, yeah, Kaveri. Come on. Don't take that credit away from me.
No, no, only to Kangana Ranaut, not to.
Yeah, there I'm like I've never had that much of a terror even on Vinil. Even Vinil is not that scared of me.
Thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations, both of you and Vinil as well, for a really spectacular movie, and quite
Thank you.
and quite different from I think anything that any of you has done before. Tapsi, you first. When you first heard Rani about Rani Kashyap, what went through your mind? Because she's a little like your heroine in Manmarzia, but to the power of 20.
You really think like that? I think they're opposite ends of the spectrum in a lot of ways because Rumi has no idea about her sexuality, and Rani
Ah,
is very proud and unapologetic about using her sexuality. So that really is a part, and Rumi is no concept of vanity. And Rani is all about, like how she's so proud and very accepting of the fact that she can intimidate people around and she has that alpha presence. So that ways, I think they are very different. Yes, both are very honest characters.
right.
Their grays and their flaws become acceptable to an extent for us as an audience when because of their honesty.
Yeah.
That's one probably common thing that is there in both of them. And that was my biggest weapon to portray both of them because their ideologies are not the ones that I accept in my personal life as Taapsee. So when I portray a Rumi or a Rani, for me the biggest weapon in hand is honesty and just be true, like honest because she has her reasons of doing it and nobody is right or wrong. And in her head, she is not really wrong. And if she is, she's going to be honest about it. Whenever she gets to know feels that she is wrong, she's going to be honest and forthright about it. And that's one weapon that I had that I knew I could use to my advantage whenever I have to portray, a character like Rani. So yeah, it's very different for me to do. First of all, I felt like fish out of water. Lot
Yeah,
of
not as much because some of the things that she does must have really gone against the grain for you as a person.
yeah,
You
yeah.
think in person, but then that's the fun of acting, no?
Yeah, I mean that is exactly what it is. Otherwise, I will get bored of my job, and you will get bored of watching me if you're going to make my on-screen character so predictable that you know exactly, oh, she's doing this, so this character is going to do this. So that's going to be very boring for both of us. So it is good. I like to be that fish out of water for my on-screen characters because it helps me explore a side to me which I also don't know that it exists.
Right.
So otherwise, I'll be way too comfortable in my comfort zone and nothing new is going to come out of my
Yeah.
performances.
And you have to be non-judgmental, right? You can't start
Oh,
judging
totally.
what she's doing.
I think we slowly need to drift away from that because as a society, we are very judgmental. But in general, as human beings, we should start drifting away because everyone has a gray. Let's accept that. None of us are black and white. So your gray might be darker than mine, and it's all theory of relativity.
Hmm.
So I can't be judgmental when I watch characters anymore. Concept of hero. We never saying anyone is a hero in the literal meaning of the term in this film. All characters are flawed, and there's one flawed character with the other. So it's not like one is the oppressor and the other is oppressed.
Right.
They're both wrong in their own
Yeah.
ways,
Yeah.
and but they're both right for each other in their
Exactly.
own ways. So that is what matters in a love story.
Exactly, because it's very easy to call it misogynistic. Some of the
Hmm.
things that Vikrant's character does to your character,
Hmm.
it can make anyone's skin crawl. But then you have to look at it from the perspective of these people being so totally besotted with each other that they will do anything.
Yeah, I mean the wrongs are not to be judged only one from one point of view, right? In another interview the other day, I was saying, even if you look at Rani from Rishu's lens, you would also want to draw a lot of dark lines there, saying,
Yeah,
she strayed, and she strayed without like she discussed things with her family and not him
yeah,
first.
exactly.
Like there are a lot of like there are ways if you really want to make it work and you're so adamant and you're so pure and you're so pious about your relationship equation, you will make it, you will at least try to put the point across and try your best to make it work. Did she really go all the way to make it work? Some might say yes, some might say no. So there is a gray zone there. So
Hmm.
if you're judging, then you have to judge both the characters. You can't just like outright call it misogynist from one side, because I don't think it's ideal for ideal whatever Rani did as well.
Yeah.
That's also not what is ideal. So I think those both flawed characters probably at the end of the day deserved each other, or they really, that flaws in them like ended up making them made for each other, and they wanted it to happen. More
Yeah.
than that, it's consent. They wanted to be with each other. So I think you have to give it them for that.
Two negatives have made a positive here, for
Yeah,
sure.
in this case, yes.
Vikrant, may I come to your character? Because again, sometimes you tend to play the bechara, and that gets stuck with you. Here, it's so nice to, especially the line that you have, that people don't really look at the ordinary men. They tend to ignore them. They tend to sort of gloss over them. Here, you got a chance to play something somewhat different, right?
Yes, yes. I immediately recognized the opportunity that came my way. I would have not let the script go at all. When I read the script, I immediately recognized the opportunity to be a part of a potentially very good script.
Right.
And also at the same time, very seldom do I get such characters my way. Maybe because of the general public perception, or maybe of the way I am. So
So you'll always
yeah,
be Shutu from Death in the Gunj, or a nice boy, poor thing.
I'm glad people see me that way. But to be very honest, I like anyone else do have different sides to me.
Right.
Nobody is unidimensional. Your experiences keep shaping you time and again. There is no stagnancy, I personally feel, in anyone's life. You're constantly evolving, sort of grasping new things and becoming a new person day in day out. But with regards to that particular line, I absolutely believe in it. ये जितने भी simple normal लोग होते हैं, and that's how this character was also designed by
Yeah.
Kanika. It was also sort of designed by Vinil, कि उसको चश्मे देंगे, he'll wear checked shirts, he'll wear full sleeve shirts,
Right.
and he just has a backpack on him.
Huh.
तो एक जो हमारी visual memory है, वो visual memory से बहुत ज्यादा connect करती है वो चीज. And then when you see someone like that grow out of his skin and become someone else, which was definitely required in our script, to sort of evoke a certain sense of feeling whatever our primary characters are going through the film. I think it lands really well, and I think all credit goes to Kanika and Vinil especially for this thing. Because the degrees vary from time to time.
Yeah.
To have a fair sense of understanding as to इस time पे इतना करना है, उसके बाद इतना करना है, completely goes to the director. And I definitely believe in it. कि जितने भी simple सीधे साधे लोग होते हैं, वो बहुत ज्यादा
lurk under that demeanor, na?
Yes. The possibility of it, and even if we talk about cinematic language, world over, we've seen, especially in Southeast Asia, we've seen absolutely unassuming characters eventually turn out to be something else, and that is where the shock value lies. That is where things really surprise you. And
Right.
we had the premise laid out for us by Kanika. It was only complemented by Vinil and Taapsee, and I only had to respond to all these things. So I think, yeah, I was at the right place at the right time.
Yeah. Without giving too much away, both of you, I'd like you to quickly discuss with me. I know I've already eaten into a lot of the time. That one scene, without giving too much away, I have to discuss that one scene where your choreography is so amazing. The time when you do whatever you do, you have to have had perfect understanding. I want to understand, how did you rehearse that?
Are you talking about the Pallu sequence?
No, the chopping.
Oh.
That
That. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was the rehearsed.
I
See,
found it
that
the
was
most shocking scene, and I thought the way you guys handled that, you must have rehearsed it, I don't know how many times, because everything was choreographed, no?
listen, that time I was too exhausted of rehearsal and retake. By the time we reached the climax sequences, I was like, we have to just directly shoot. I have literally no patience right now to rehearse these sequences because they are too emotionally draining. I don't want to preempt anything, and I'm a person who if I see that visual, or if I am more familiar with that visual or that act, I will preempt my action and it will not look real and spontaneous.
Right.
So those were the sequences that I don't think I gave Vinil any rehearsal shot for that. Yeah, I mean, like a lot of other sequences probably, but as I remember for that, because we were shooting climax for 18 hours for days.
Okay.
And we were literally running against time to finish that, because it was such a tricky sequence. It had different perspectives of that particular sequence. So Vinil had a lot to shoot, and it is not a sequence that, you know, it's very easy to shoot for an actor, because it's crazily draining emotionally to do that. So I was like, Vinil, just roll the camera. So thankfully, by that time, Vinil and the DOP, both were JK, were both used to, or they knew like how much they should move, and we were told, okay, this much is your constraint, and you know, this is what you can do. So we all knew each other too much by that time, because we had shot a lot. So Vikrant and I were familiar with each other, and Vinil and JK were familiar with our way of working. So I guess because of that, we could shoot those sequences without rehearsals, really. You know, at max, probably Vinil must have rehearsed a little bit with the DOP to tell him that, okay, you know, what all we need to capture, what all we need to see in that sequence. But as performance wise, I was very, very sure that I can't rehearse this, because I will not be able to perform honestly if I end up rehearsing this sequence.
Right. Vikrant, you want to quickly step in and talk about your...
Yes. There's so much to talk about, but I would really pass this on to Vinil, because I think he's far better qualified than I am with regards to how the climax unfolds in front of us. So I think he's far better equipped than I am as to how he broke it down. I think that would be really interesting to know what went in his mind.
Vinil, you want to quickly take this?
Okay, I'll try and make it quickly. That's the operative word, but essentially, yeah, like you know that the end climax has 3 different perspectives.
Yes.
But there are certain markers in terms of what has transpired during that. That action can't be changed. So each perspective had a very subtle difference, but not really different as to what has happened. So it was quite a challenging thing, because we were shooting over days, the same thing over and again. I mean, each actor had to do it thrice over, the same action. So it's really exhausting. Plus, the film has 2 parallel threads. One is a romantic story and one is a thriller element. And the climax is where they both culminate and they kind of become, and it has to be like satiating for the audiences of both the threads, you know. So it has to be a satisfying, thrilling end. At the same time, it should also give a sense of satisfaction to the love story as well. So one was always a little, you know, scared, because you don't know if you have got emotions right, and you feel that they're, you know, that they're parting away will have that amount of you know, sadness you want, or the pain should be there. And the other thing was that we didn't want to make it gory or violent. I mean, that was not the idea. In fact, the end is actually more of a emotional end, you know. So a lot of things, it was like a very complex matrix which had to be kind of done, and very exhausting emotionally for actors to keep performing the same thing. So and like Taapsee said, we were at the end of our schedule and everybody was really tired, and we had like extreme weather as well. So one just by this time we had got a sense of how the actors perform, how they, so it was like given instruction and just go and shoot, rather than spend laborious amount of, you know, time rehearsing it.
Where did you shoot this, Vinil? In Kanpur or?
We shot this in the north and in Uttarakhand, and we shot this in the winter months of, I think, February. It was pretty cold when we shot this. And so yeah, the JK and me, we would just, we knew that, so there are 3 perspectives. So one is the cop perspective, which is, you know, or the onlookers, the neighbors perspective, where you see the camera from a distance. You always, you know, it's almost like you're stealing a glance, you're stealing a moment rather than actually seeing it up front. So all of that was shot with cameras kept far away. The whole thing was staged from far away, and it was very, like, from distance, it was very hazy, it wasn't kept clear. Then there was an object, there's another perspective, which is Rani's perspective when she, you know, when she's a lie detector and she's talking to the cops, which again had to seem like very objective, had to seem truthful. You shouldn't have any reason to mistrust what she said, though she of course looks somebody who's unreliable, but her narration has to be as if I as an audience are witnessing the truth. So the camera was kept very static, very stable, you know, and everything was kept again very objectively. It was much closer but objective. So that was another way of shooting. And performance wise also, you were asking the actors to kind of, you know, behave, everything was normal.
Right.
And then the third perspective, the final, the whatever the cop reads in the book, and that's when you really resolve the story,
Right.
is where you have to feel the chaos, you have to feel the panic, you have to feel the madness, the rush of emotions, everything together. So then it had a very frenetic kind of energy. So the camera is moving, you're closer to the actors, you're feeling their pain, you're seeing it from their perspective. So everything has an extreme amount of movement, and it's very unstable, it's very kind of chaotic. So that had to come through. So these same events had to be done thrice in different ways, for actors, for camera, for lighting, everything. And we had a lot of changes. We were shooting across days, it would go into nights, and we're shooting day for night. They had to, like, the last parting scene was done at 3 in the morning, where everybody's sleepy and they have to, the hug is happening. And so it was quite a crazy, intense thing to pull off. But fortunately, it kind of fell in place eventually.
Yeah, well done. Just the last question to all three of you. Was the shoot of this interrupted by COVID, and did that change the way you felt about your characters in any way? Taapsee, you first.
We shot the entire, the story sequence, like basically, if you call the flashback, of their relationship in Uttarakhand. So there we finished that. Luckily, by the time we were done with the that portion is when COVID hit us. Okay. So my interrogation and all, primarily the present sequences and all, were mostly and some patchwork for the old part was done after COVID. So
did it change the way you thought about Rani in any way?
In certain sequences, it actually worked because we had to show a certain time lapse after when I start getting interrogated. So that way, it might have worked psychologically somewhere unconsciously. But otherwise, no, it didn't change. I had performed Rani for like good 40, 45 odd days at least. So it is pretty much ingrained in me that when I have to switch into that mode. Vikrant,
may I ask you the same question? Did you feel differently about Rishu?
No, as Taapsee said, most of the important chunks of the film was shot before COVID hit us. As we said, we shot the film in Jan-Feb, and COVID was completely out of control. I think we went under lockdown post the 22nd or 21st of March. We were to head to Delhi from Uttarakhand, but then obviously we couldn't because Delhi was completely engulfed with whatever we know of. And so I really don't think it played a lot with my mind. There were portions which I had to shoot, and there was a substantial gap between the first schedule and the second schedule. We actually shot it after 7 months.
Right.
But we, as Taapsee also said, by that time, I think we were sort of very well versed with what these characters were, what their traits were. So you subconsciously end up, after you've shot for nearly 2 months, you really can switch on and switch off, comparatively easier.
Especially if you're used to a long series format as you are.
Yeah, I could attribute this adaptability to that, but I was very lucky. The only portions that I had to actually shoot for were the underwater sequences which you see in the film, and minor stuff here and there. So by the time we resumed shooting after 7 months, most of my work was done. So I really don't think COVID played a lot with me psychologically.
It's nice to see Bablu Bhaiya as Guddu Bhaiya in this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Vinil, just the last question, to you. The end is such an inversion of your typical DDLJ sequence, I wondered if it had anything, if that had any role to play in your referencing or in the way you shot it.
Not really, Kaveri, because the DDLJ was not a reference at all.
It's like a twist.
It is a twist. But if you notice throughout the film, that's what we did, because we knew that we were making a mainstream film for a mainstream audience. And the attempt was, of course, to layer it and turn it from inside out rather than outside in. So you use the mainstream tropes, but you're tweaking things from the inside, whether it's performances, whether it's layering of things or nuances or giving character motivations and stuff. So we've tried to get some sense into the otherwise a mainstream kind of format.
Otherwise, it's too different for audience.
We wanted the film to be very accessible, and then pull the audience with the accessibility into the film, and then give them a very fresh perspective and experience while they're into it. So you don't make it intimidating or alienating, which is why there's a lot of dollops of humor in it. There is a lot of there's a slice of life element to the thriller. So one wanted to consciously avoid a very obvious thriller approach to the film as well, because I thought it's good experiment to kind of experiment with form and kind of change it from inside, so it's done throughout the film, not just the end. So yeah.
What are the other parts that you...
Kaveri, I'm so sorry, we'll have to...
Last. Just quickly, what are the other things that you referenced? Maybe
But because the thing is that even with characters, they start off as something. So the whole idea is built on deceit. You start off with something and then that thing keeps changing. So it's just not the characters, it's the location as well. You have a very placid town or river which looks normal and then underbelly which kind of keeps coming out. So the idea is to keep lulling the audience. So when you start, you think it's a rom-com. It's a simple North Indian, whatever, based, heartland-based rom-com. And then you kind of turn it inside out. So that's the approach throughout, with characters, with the seasons we have used, with the costume, everything. It just kind of transforms. And then that ride has to be smooth and cohesive. That was the attempt.
I was just waiting for Dinesh Pandit to turn up. Otherwise, it was perfect. Who would you have cast as Dinesh Pandit?
Kanika. Let's cast Kanika only. Let's have a spin-off on Dinesh Pandit, and Kanika is going to play Dinesh. It is a closeted woman writer in Dinesh Pandit, garb of that name of Dinesh Pandit.
Well done, Taapsee. Thank you so much. And I'm really sorry to have made you wait. Thank you very much.
No, please don't apologize. Thank you so much. So glad you liked the film. Thank you so much.
Many congratulations again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.